So will we call the meeting to order now? Mary, you think we should go ahead?
Go ahead.
Okay. First item of business is the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda first, Chris?
Thanks, Dorothy. I just, sorry, just a second. I'm pulling it up here.
Okay.
It's in the agenda. I was wondering if we could add item 353 under priority issues, the old water treatment plant.
Good.
Any other additions requested? Okay, hearing none, would somebody then move that we approve the agenda as modified? Ted, and a seconder, please. Lorraine, thank you. Next item of business is the adoption of the minutes from October 21st. Would someone move that we adopt the minutes? Lorraine, thank you. And the seconder, Katie.
Okay.
Oh, there's Tony. Hi, Tony.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi, Tony.
I'm really glad you managed to connect.
Yeah.
Tony, were you there when we approved the agenda, or did you miss that?
No, I was not.
And you have the agenda?
Yes, I do. I'm happy with the agenda.
We've added item 5.3, the old water treatment plant.
Okay.
Okay, so we've moved and seconded approval of the minutes. Is there any discussion before we vote on that? No? Okay, all in favor of approval of the minutes? Okay, thank you. Approved. Disclosure of monetary interest, anyone? No? Well, let's move on then to the priority issues. And I thought it would be a good idea to start with the discussion of chapter 1 of the document that Chris sent us. And then we can, we can discuss other things in light of what we've learned by reading that document. So would you like to start the discussion, Chris, since you sent it to us?
I need that document.
You're on mute, Chris, I think.
Sorry, I think I've got it on a screen here. I'm just going to see if I can share it, and then we could scroll through it together, maybe.
That would be good.
But I got a lot going on. Can you see that right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. But now I can't see. Okay, so I guess is it big enough to read? I can't see it myself, so I'm not sure what's actually being presented.
You may have to scroll it up a bit as you speak to Chris, but it's big enough to read.
Okay.
The whole page, we don't see the whole page, at least I don't.
Just like, is the
But
font...
you can scroll, yeah, you can scroll.
Okay. So if the font's big enough here, I can make it bigger or smaller, but...
No, it's good. That's good.
That's good. That's good.
Okay, so this, a little bit of background, I guess, for our newer members is that this has been kind of the catch-all document that we've been putting on when somebody like Parkview Homes comes to us with the Rideau Hotel, or the town comes to us with the town hall renovations. The stamp that we've been putting on it is, please complete all works in accordance with the guidelines for the conservation of historic places in Canada. So I thought it might be good for us to kind of dig into this a little bit, because it's a really, it's an amazing document. It's got some really cool examples from across Canada. But when we're giving this recommendation to people, I think as a committee, the more we understand this document and the more we decide how we're going to implement it at a municipal scale in Smith Falls, the better the direction we're going to be able to give to people coming to us with looking for advice. So anyway, that's the context for tonight. And chapter 1 is, pretty quick. You can see it gets into conservation treatments, the standards, and then guidelines. And the guidelines are really useful because it's broken down into all different types of historical sites. So you've got cultural landscapes, heritage districts, archaeological sites, and hopefully we can get into this stuff. The buildings are the ones that come up the most for us due to the nature of our mandate. And then you've even got engineering works, civil, industrial, military works, and then guidelines for materials, which is really cool because this is a thing that comes up a lot. So hopefully over the next couple of months, if there's interest, we can keep digging into it. Maybe, I don't know if as a committee or as a subcommittee or a study group. I don't know, this is one of those textbooks that's fun to read, at least for me. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it too.
Thank you.
Like the preface, I think was pretty straightforward. I don't know if we need to talk about that. I'm not seeing any hands up. Introduction, kind of overviews what, I'm just kind of trying to make this bigger so I can see everybody in case somebody wants to talk.
Where are you getting this document from, Chris?
It's, if you Google conservation standards and guidelines for the conservation of historic places in Canada, it's the first thing that comes up. But I emailed out the link. I can send it out again, or maybe we can include it in the minutes, Tony.
No, this is not something out of our toolkit then.
No, so this is a federal one. And the reason why, because we've all kind of studied the toolkit and we've looked at the toolkit with our orientation, but because we've been using this when we give advice to people doing development, and it's kind of got that catch-all, I don't know, powers to it. I thought maybe we could dig into it, but it's new to me. It's relatively new to me. I've kind of looked at it in sections, but I've never actually kind of gone through it yet. So, so yeah, so the introduction kind of breaks down a lot of the stuff we were just talking about, and then we get into chapter 1. So the conservation decision-making process. So I don't know if I can. Is the text still big enough to read now?
Yep.
No.
A little smaller, a
Okay.
little too small.
I'll keep it here. So I don't know how we want to go through this. Is there?
I like page 7, something I underlined just because I think it's something that we've been dealing with as long as I've been on this committee. And it's down where it talks about identified project requirements and it talks about windows. It's the second paragraph and it says replacement of the badly deteriorated windows with wood frame units matching the configuration of the original windows. Masonry repairs, removal, cleaning, repainting, and reassembly of the pressed metal facade. I mean, those are such important things, I think, to our downtown, especially our historic buildings. And they're often what gets replaced with aluminum that are very inappropriate windows. So that spoke to me. And the other thing I found that I'd like to share that connects to this really well is I would really love us to create our own heritage facade improvement guide. The only one that I found that's really well done is Saskatchewan, the town of, I can't even say it, Moosomin, but it goes through, I can't show you because we're looking at the screen, but it breaks down really well. It talks about what a facade of a historic building should look like and why it's so important to have this implementation guide as you're doing your historic buildings. And the only reason I brought it up now is in a little while, Mary's going to talk to you about a grant we have, an RED grant. And this grant is going to be dealing with this very thing. We're going to have mock-ups of facades and how they could improve and become more accurate. And this guide, if we had it, would really feed the CIP committee with easy, information to keep them looking historic and original. So anyway, I'm happy to share it with anybody, or I think you could probably Google Heritage Facade Improvement Guide, Saskatchewan. It was in 2014 that I found it, and it talks about, I could show you some pictures if I was the only one talking, but we want to keep going through what Chris has in front of us first, maybe?
I think that'd be great if you could email us the link for that, Lorraine, because that sounds really
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Just to your point, so the pictures associated with what they're talking about there, you can see the difference where up here, you know, it looks like something that could fit right in certain parts of town, downtown. And then the after shot where they've got all the metal work redone, the windows redone, and then a new commercial section on the main floor. So it's quite stunning, the before and
Yeah.
after. And I think the stamp tin is really similar to what we have on the Washburn block.
Yeah.
So we do have this kind of stuff right in our backyard. So did anybody else have a section they wanted to talk about specifically or really jumped out?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Chris, I know I've missed a lot in the last couple of meetings, but why are we looking at federal when we're under provincial mandate?
So yeah, that's a good question, Tony. All of the materials we've gotten from the province have been related to the Ontario Heritage Act.
Yes.
And that's, you know, that's like, how do we write our designations? What do we designate? All of that kind of legislative stuff. Whereas this document is more geared towards the how of somebody comes to the committee and they want to modify a designated building. How do we recommend they do it? Specifically with the town hall renovations would be an example where we gave them this document in our, the motion that we passed at the Heritage Committee and then council passed was that all works at the town hall will be done in thought of these guidelines and in line with these guidelines, but then obviously the works didn't quite get applied that way or it didn't roll out that way. So the idea is that if we're going to use this as, because this is the best set of guidelines we've been able to find or get, there are no Ontario guidelines for the conservation of historic places. So we've kind of fallen back on this. And I don't know if that's an oversight or not on our part, but it's just, this has been the document that we've been using in the past. So, so this is more of like a how to, what kind of process to use than like a how to designate or the kind of stuff you'd find in the Heritage Toolkit.
So this is more of a guideline. There's no teeth in it?
No, but the teeth come when we as a committee say, okay, you want to modify your designated building. This is the best way to do it. So we can give it teeth if we want to make it the document we use. But if there's another document or a better document or a more relevant provincial document, then, you know, that's a good discussion we should have too.
Okay.
But it's to help us give better advice or better motions when we, you know, approve work on a designated structure.
Okay. That's good.
So
It seems to me that it's a good thing to have it standardized across the country anyway.
Yeah. I agree.
So
And speaking of windows, I must say to Tony, the Railway Museum windows are looking beautiful.
That's original, by the way.
I know.
We're calling it relish and mustard.
Well, it's looking great.
Thank you.
If I could just make a comment, one thing I noticed, that when they were talking about the statement of significance that would need to be prepared, I presume, they said it identifies the heritage value of a place and lists the character defining elements that must be retained to preserve its value. And that's really what one of the steps that we take or should be taking when we designate any kind of heritage property. So it fits together.
Right. I agree. Yeah.
yeah, and like we see how hard of a time we're having trying to find pictures of the host tower. Like, can you imagine if we had like a photo library of all this documentation? It would really help us.
Yeah.
Yes, it would.
Also, on page 10, it talks about heritage value of character defining elements in areas that where you've got like they share the same kind of thing. And I was thinking as I read it, like for the years I've been involved with heritage as a counselor, I really regret that before all of this gentrification happened to us, we hadn't identified the wartime housing, at least the blocks that share the central market square or green space, because they're changing so quickly now that the character of how it was built and the design of it's going to soon not be recognizable. And it's just kind of sad that we hadn't done that in time, because it's so unique, and it's just a really good example of wartime housing. So, but anyway, move on, do a better job next time.
If nobody else has anything they want to bring up, I'll just share a couple things that stood out to me. The first thing I really like is this table. I'm going to see if I can make it smaller because the text is a little bigger, but I like how this lays out the roadmap to completing renovations on a historic property. Determine the primary treatment. Is it preservation, rehabilitation, or restoration? And then there's guidelines. This document has standards depending on where you're going to go from there, plus the additional standards depending on how relevant it is to the work being done, and then the standards lead into the guidelines. So I'm hoping the more we get into it, it'll really start to, based on the small sections I have read, it's good. It's just, it'll be nice to take a more holistic view when we're not under the pressure. Because this is, we seem to get into replacement a lot of the time in town before we even really have reviewed these three to make sure that they're not feasible. Kind of replacement seems to be the go-to a lot of the time. So maybe this will help us with some ideas for that. Sorry, I'm jumping around.
Can you go back to the chart again, please, Chris?
Yeah.
I'm wondering why in the second two sections, there's nothing under preservation.
Yeah, that's a good point, eh?
Of course, I haven't read further into the document yet, so maybe that's explained later.
I think it was because preservation is like keeping the paint on it, keeping it from getting it to the point where it needs to have more work. So if you're always putting a fresh coat of paint on it, the wood's never going to rot, so you're never going to have to worry about rehabilitating it or restoring it. That's my impression, but that's up for discussion because I read chapter 1 and I'm not. Yeah, I think it's more. I don't know if chapter 1 got into it too much, so that's a good thing to make note of. Sorry, just scrolling through here.
Looks like the Clark building.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
It does. It looks like Second Empire construction, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Well, look at the detail.
Yeah.
It's. I guess this is from Alberta, Fort Macleod.
1902.
Same vintage as the Clark building too.
Yeah. And then like the up close, just the detail that they had. But it's interesting how they go into the investigate, identify the heritage value and the character defining elements, and then investigate and document conditions and changes. I think this is like exactly what we're doing for the host tower right now. Trying to find the old pictures, trying to dig it up, and then select an appropriate and sustainable use, identify project requirements, and determine the primary treatment, which goes back to the table that leads into the standards and leads into the guidelines. So I guess the chapter 1's pretty straightforward. It's neat to see stuff like this because we have a lot of this in town where there's, you're losing your window and then they come in and they turn the bricks around and they redo the sill and put a new window in, and it saves that feature for the future.
What's happened though in our downtown historically and often is that, especially along our main street, they put a smaller window, they fill in the top, and they've put a very tiny modern window in it, which looks terrible and spoils the building.
Yeah. And that's something where if we had design guidelines with some teeth,
Yeah, that's right.
like we shouldn't be letting, when you look at what's happened on the corner of like William and Beckwith, where you've got these big arched windows that have been filled in with siding, it really takes away from the architecture of the building. Right? And you can see how it suits the space, even in a simple 2-pane window, how much of a difference it can make, right? Than the big aluminum, kind of the huge flashing coming out in bulky. So I don't know, any questions or comments as we roll through here? And so the last one for me was the cultural landscapes, because we're on the Rideau Canal. You know, we've got a UNESCO cultural landscape, and it was something I've never personally thought of in the context of the Municipal Heritage Committee. So it's just kind of a new thing that I hadn't thought of before. I don't know if anybody else kind of was thought about the parkland and the canal and how that flows into the downtown and the surrounding buildings and community. But
you have me, I think, continually about where the swimming pool used to be and what that could be as part of our cultural landscape downtown, and how it's deteriorated in the way it looks now.
Yeah. And you know, the other one for me is the little tiny creek that goes through where the boats are kept. When I was a child, there was a wading pool there that has been filled in with dirt and grass. But that wading pool was fed through this little creek that had water running through it continually. And then we shut everything off, and now it has weeds. And it's an eyesore, the little creek. It has very little water left in it. And all that's happened is it's overgrown now with weeds and unsightly looking things. And it's terrible to be part of that beautiful park. And I have said for 8 years, why can't we open that up a bit and have water running through it again and have it actually a little creek that the kids could follow around? We could have butterflies and plants along there that you'd actually see wildlife, and it would be a beautiful natural park. So yeah.
Where was the swimming pool?
Well, you can see it literally because the foundation of it's still there, and they've just planted grass in it. And the creek ran in and out of it.
And
Right where the swings are.
We have we have the wrong pool.
Oh.
The pool just actually on Beckwith Street, just over the bridge. The area between the
I think she meant the wading pool though, Tony.
Okay.
Didn't you, Katie?
Somebody mentioned the pool. I just wondered where that pool.
I mentioned the swimming pool.
The swimming pool was concrete too, but it was on the other side of Beckwith. Yeah.
Yes, that's the area I'm talking about. The area of just over the bridge, over the Stone Arch Bridge, that area between there and the first lock.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that it would be on the east side.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
do you have any pictures, Tony?
There is lots of
pictures. There are pictures.
We have postcards.
Yeah.
We have postcards up. Yeah. Yeah, there was actually a change up there. Of course, there was a boys section and a girls section. Of course. No, we could certainly get some pictures from Lisa for sure.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one yet, but maybe Ted's going to get one right now. He's got the collection.
Yeah.
I think that's like a great point, Lorraine, because the cultural heritage landscapes incorporate all these features, and then so you've got the municipal heritage aspect of it, but then why not turn that little creek into an outdoor classroom that could have some pedestals?
Oh yeah.
You can take a class there, and it's just full of muck right now.
Yeah, but you know what's happened to us too, and again, I'm just old, and I'm bringing up things that we may not be able to change, but public health safety, we had the wading pool down there, and we were running it quite effectively, and at our housing district over on Sussex Empress, I had a mom and some kids fill up that wading pool for 3 summers, and everybody enjoyed it immensely. And it was one of the nicest things that little community had. And then public health came, started testing the water and closed them all down. And, you know, it's just, to me, it's just a bit of a ridiculous situation because you can empty it and fill it the next day and it should just be done, you know. It's, sorry, Ted, I didn't see that.
Okay, I didn't want to.
Is that the picture of, oh yes, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
So that's the swimming pool, is it?
Yeah.
The swimming pool, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you say it was between the bridge and the lock on,
the east side.
Yeah. Keep in mind that the road wasn't very wide.
but there's nothing there. There's just there's a pathway and then there's the river.
No,
Yeah.
There's quite a large green space there, but it's
Yeah.
all grown in with Manitoba maples.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Where that pathway goes down and underneath the road. That's where you mean, right?
No, it was right
No.
even with the road. It was right at the top.
There was a pathway there because there was a walking bridge over to Frosted Woods
Yeah.
from that
That's right.
location.
Yeah.
No, I can't picture that.
See you down the street for coffee sometime and we'll have a walk over.
Okay, do we want to talk about that anymore or are we ready to move on? I guess we are. Okay, so I think it's very informative though, and I am really glad that you brought that up, Chris, and that
Mhm.
I think it's really important that we be aware of this, and it's great to have the document available. So we'll continue in future meetings, right? And we'll
Yeah.
discuss other parts of it. So item 5, number 2 is the host tower restoration options that were presented to us at the last meeting. So Mary, would you want, I don't know who's going to start on this. Is it you, Mary?
Well, I mean, I don't mind starting off. So essentially, this is just revisiting it. I reviewed the recording from the last meeting because I wasn't involved. And I did see that you've reviewed these options, but you wanted to see the photos that Director Art Manhire obtained from the Heritage House Museum. I see that a few of you have also found a few photos rather of your own or from elsewhere, just for context on how to evaluate these restoration options. So I can leave it to the committee to discuss. Essentially, I believe what Art is looking for is feedback and potentially a recommendation as to which restoration option the committee favors.
And just before the meeting, Ted sent us a picture of a postcard which certainly shows the host tower
Mhm.
and does show, gives some idea of what the door was. But I found it odd that the host tower was just painted gray when in fact it's made out
No,
of
that was poured stone on that. Like when they did the brickwork underneath, they took all of that concrete off. That host tower was covered in, I think it must be like a concrete or some kind of.
When was that?
Cement.
painted?
Plastered. It was
It
plastered.
was taken off, when I was still teaching, quite a while ago.
Oh, okay, so it really did look like that then. All right.
Yeah,
I thought maybe they
No.
just painted it gray in the postcard.
no, it was always brick, but they covered it. I don't know why they covered it with that cement. I like this one, the first one that has the transom that's going to be glass. And I still hope that we can open those doors and have a railing, a nice wrought iron railing there that would prevent people from entering, but they could hang their head over and see where the host towers hung. And we could literally get some old host towers and have them hanging there. Because part of the walking tour is that Higgitt and other people have told us it's the last one that was still being used in Ontario. And I think that's an important part of our walking tour. And to have some of the old host towers hanging there gives the people the idea of what it was used for. I mean, we have in our walking tour had people walk right up to the top, but I know we're not allowed to do that anymore. So having that railing there would allow them to open the doors and look up and see it. And it would just, to me, make that walking tour just so much better.
Sounds good.
Chris?
I'm wondering if that space has been cleaned out on the inside the way it's been described. Like maybe it's safe that they could walk right in again now. Like if all the bricks have been repointed and the debris's been removed. I don't know. But I was thinking, looking at the picture from the postcard that Ted shared, Ted, you were saying that was about 1970s kind of thing?
I
That's
believe, yeah.
Like, for the sake of, now we kind of have our window, we know like we've got 1876 to 1970, say, to try to find more pictures of this. And Wendy Alford shared a picture of the Hose Tower from the 1950 Old Home Week brochure, I guess, or booklet, but it's too grainy to really tell what's going on over there. But if we could find that original, it might give us more insight into what we're aiming for. But since the work's not going to be done over the winter months, we've got, probably 4 or 6 months until anything's going to happen. Maybe we should take just see by chance if we can find any more photographs or documentation for it.
My husband and my grandson right now downstairs are working on a door for their carriage house. And I suspect it's the same door that was in that picture. And I'm using my cursor. I don't know why, because you can't see my cursor, but the cross members on that door, I don't think they were there. I think it was all wood running this way. And on the back, the way my husband did it to duplicate the wood ran the other way. So it was a double door and it was very strong. And if I remember when I was there as a kid and we were allowed to be in there just snooping around, when we opened it, it was heavy. And that's what makes me think it was the two-sided, like Isaac's carriage house door. And so that, I hope we could find a picture, but I would be even happy just knowing that, because we can find doors like that in our town. There are lots of them. Like ours, Isaac's was rotting at the bottom very badly. So that's why Larry and Lincoln are making one over. But they're not hard to make. You must have some at the museum too, Tony, do you?
We do.
Doors,
Of
yeah.
course, the railroad had, they're a little different, the railroad ones, but yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, ours are 2 1/4 inches thick.
Yeah.
Well, I will keep hunting for photographs. I spent some time at the library looking at microfilm and I didn't find any newspapers. But I will go to High Fun Studio and see if maybe there's something over there.
And Ted, the other thing that I was talking, I don't know if it was Chris I was telling or someone else, but I know that I was 4 years old, 5 years old, and I'm 68. So, that many years ago, the door was there because a friend of mine's house was right beside the Hose Tower, and I used to play in her backyard, and we'd go over there and open the door. And that's the door I'm describing is what was on there then.
Yeah.
And it probably, like Isaac's, rotted, and they just decided, let's get rid of it. But
Well, thank you, Ted, for that offer, to find some more pictures. That would be great, because that's what we really need.
and High Fun, Steve has a lot of wonderful.
Yeah,
I've been trying to talk him into, maybe if we all went there, and I've been trying to make him create a coffee table book of some of those old pictures, and just call it Historic Smiths Falls.
Oh,
He has amazing pictures. It would be a great book.
It certainly would. Anybody else want to say anything about the Hose Tower before we go on? Okay, let's move on to the water treatment plant then. Now I know that staff is looking into answers to the questions. Mary?
I can speak to that a little bit, Dorothy. So the only update I have for staff after reaching out to other departments was that discussions for the water treatment plant are still in process. There's no further update though for the committee at this time, but in the meantime, staff have secured the building as best as possible for safety purposes.
You're talking about discussions regarding the redevelopment of the water treatment plant?
Yes,
So-
that's how I understand it as well.
Okay. Chris? You're on mute, Chris.
I was taking a walk down there last week, and I noticed a lot of it's well secured on the lower stories for people to break in and vandalism, but the upper stories have a lot of broken windows, and there's a lot of pigeons and stuff flying in and out. You can see this is the back section that faces the river of the red brick section. Then the stone section's missing panes too. You can see here where they have boarded it up in the past, but now this one's open. And then on the front of the building, it's hard to see with the shadow, but you can see how these ones have been boarded up, but these ones are actually wide open. And the coverings that have been put in these ones are looking pretty ratty and loose. And what I'm worried about is that, you know, you get a storm where the rain's blowing and the water gets in there. Is this going to undermine the brick? And then are we going to start to have structural issues here? So when the redevelopment plans come back to us, it's going to be a demolition job instead of a preservation and reincorporate it. So I was wondering if the committee would be interested in sending I don't know, passing a resolution or sending a note to report back to council, just noting that, you know, this needs to be secure. And if we could get that done before winter, it'd be great, because you can see how well they've done it on the lower
Yeah.
floors. But the upper ones, you can see this windows is open. Just it's hard to tell, but yeah, it'd be good to get that secured before winter, I was thinking. So that's what led it to the agenda tonight.
Do we need a motion or do we just send a letter?
If the committee would like to make a motion, I can send it to the clerk and ask her to include it in her director's report to council.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we advise council that we would like to have all of the unfilled in windows filled in. You write it, but so that it secures the building and doesn't undermine the brick, and before the winter.
I'd second that.
Sure, I will. We keep the vandals out, let's keep the pigeons out too.
Yes.
Okay, so who's seconding it? Chris or Tony?
Tony did.
Tony did. Okay, so a motion made by Katie and seconded by Tony. Do we want to discuss it some more before we vote on that?
But the only thing I would like to add is I had asked, like, who has deemed this building now unsafe that we can't go in it? And I just wondered if there was any answer to that.
Well, I was told that there's a hole in the roof, and they're going to fill that in. They're going to fix that for sure. And like what Mary has said, I was also told that there is interest in this building, and that might be forthcoming.
Well, I hope it's not a really long time, because otherwise it'll end up being demolished if it's not secured.
Well, I think your motion will help that. So I think we'll get that after, and yeah.
Mary, do you have the motion okay?
I believe so. I mean, I haven't wrote it all, but for the most part, I get the gist of it, that the committee would like to see the broken windows filled in to prevent any additional water infiltration that could cause rot or further damage, and you would like to see it completed before the winter. Is that correct?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, well, we'd like it secured, I guess, including the windows. I mean, if there are other problems, like a hole in the roof, or are they already working on that?
Just a minute, the hole in the roof isn't, Chris, is that not in the section, the cement block part, is
So-
not in the, it's not in the building itself. It's in that add-on on the north side.
I know there's at least, the roof on the 1950 section looks like it's caving in. But I don't know, the way it looks, it doesn't look like that's gonna be patched up. So what Lorraine's saying maybe leads me to think there might be a hole in one of the older sections that obviously it's too hard to see from the, unless you could get into the Canal Museum and get a view down on it. But maybe we should include roof with windows, any holes in the
Yeah.
roof.
Well,
In the motion.
As the 1950 sections, it should be demolished anyway, get rid of it. But it's the older section is in my mind, what we need to look after. That cement block part is just an eyesore.
Well, you know what? When this building was brought forward, first year I was on this committee, it was brought forward by Anne Shropshire based on the fact that it's showing industrial building in many decades. And if we took one away, you're not going to have that same sense of history of how that changed. Do you remember that, Tony?
I remember that, but it doesn't mean I have to agree with it.
Tony, I just want to
Okay.
clarify, it's the red brick 1950 section, not the concrete block section that's down kind of that one-story chunk on the left side of it.
So the red bricks on the south side, the newer section.
Yes, that red brick section has the roof caved in.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, no, the concrete block section I don't think is worth but if the red brick section on the south part is caving in, who knows because the other ones are that much older, right? So.
Oh, yes. What is the first one? What is it? Is 18?
1854, I think.
Yeah. That's the red brick,
No, the stone.
the stone. Then the red brick was, okay, 1890.
The stone part was originally a flour mill,
Oh,
according to my notes. And then the red brick after that.
That's what the captain built.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, the stone building must have already been there, right? And then he built the red brick part, I suppose.
That's where the safe is in the red brick part?
A safe?
Yeah, there's a big safe in there.
They can't get it out?
No, it's built in, I believe, isn't it, Lorraine? Have you seen it?
you're talking about the hydro building, when it was a hydro building? Is that where the safe's from?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Rideau Hotel had one, remember? And they just left it because nobody could lift it.
Mhm.
In the basement of the Hotel Rideau, they had a huge one, and it was just abandoned because they didn't know how to get it out, I don't think. And I think it ended up having to be taken apart, Tony, to come out at the end.
How did they get it in there?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Same as a bank safe, you built it.
Okay, so let's vote on the motion then. All in favor? Everybody? Okay, thank you. Motion passed.
Where's Ted?
Sorry, Tony?
Can't see Ted anymore.
Oh, he's there.
Okay.
I see it.
I'm here.
The correspondence item then, is that, I guess, Mary, you're going to tell us about that?
Yeah, I can debrief you guys a little on that. So this is mainly an economic development project, but planning has been consulted on it, and we're involved in it a little bit. So essentially, we received a RED grant, which is Regional Economic Development grants, and it's giving us half of the budget to go towards 20 historically accurate renderings in our downtown, specifically along Beckwith Street. So
Great.
that contract, I understand, has been awarded to a design firm, Iron and Ivory, based out of Ottawa. And that will be launching in the coming weeks. So essentially, they'd be looking to do these renderings for pre-selected facades in our downtown. Again, specifically Beckwith Street is what we're looking at. And I also understand that one of the outcomes of these renderings is to give us more of a design guideline on how to achieve the look the rendering produces. So a little bit of information on materials, how it's applied, how it's significance is what I also understand the outcome would be. So at the end of it, these individual businesses would have a lovely facade mock-up that's historically accurate to the area of the building. And then they would also have a guideline to show them how to achieve the look for their property.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Wow.
quite a cool project.
Yes.
So, and just to tie it in with something else that you guys have been a little bit familiar with lately as we sought an MHC representative for our CIP committee. We're also hoping that this leverages a little bit more of CIP applications so that we can see these facade improvements in the downtown. So hopefully that triggers some interest in the CIP to obtain some funding to achieve these historically accurate looks along Beckwith Street.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Wow.
And that's why I was talking about this document. Because it goes through and talks about how we can create better facades. That's compares like 53 to 2014. And then it talks about the elements that a good facade should have. It's just a really excellent little guide. And it would be really nice when we're doing these mock-ups to have our own guide of how we're hoping the CIP will direct, you know, the changes in the downtown buildings. It would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Lorraine, you're going to send us the link for that, right?
Yeah.
So we can have a look
Okay.
at that before the next meeting.
Yep.
Sure.
We'll have lots of homework.
Yeah.
Anything further about that? We don't have to do anything then. That's an information item, is it?
That's right.
Okay, so we move on to round table then. Would anyone like to start?
Sure, I'll jump right in.
Okay, Tony?
Okay, good. Highway 15. If anybody's gone out Highway 15 lately, I believe it's the old Nichols property. It was one of the only remaining dwellings out there that has a little pink door on it, cement block building, but it had some barns in the backyard. They've all been demolished within the last month, mid-October. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. Like, I'm not advocating that we should have saved the barns, but I think if the committee had been warned that this was going to be demolished, it would have been great to have been able to take a photographic record of it for the future. Right now, we're looking for pictures of the host tower before it was done. We don't have any. If we can't save these historic, I mean, it was the last standing farm buildings left in Smith Falls. The Percy Joint barns are all gone, of course. Now these are gone. And like I say, I'm not advocating that we should have saved them, but it would have been nice to have a pictorial history of it. If
Yeah.
we'd have been warned it was coming down, we could have done that. We could have got somebody like Chris Urig or somebody like that to take some professional
Yeah.
photographs of it.
Yeah.
But we need to be warned.
Well, I know Toledo has identified barns. There's a number of them. There's one on the Toledo Highway that has shared, two barns that are shared. And it looks like almost a walkway between the two. I was talking to them at the Heritage Symposium last year, and a lot of those barns have been designated for that reason, so that we don't lose that sense of history with them.
I wonder if we could, I could ask Sally Smith if she'd write a little story in the Hum. Or sorry, what's the paper she's with, the other one?
Hometown News?
Hometown News, yes. About this, that it would, about old buildings and perhaps it would be better to take pictures and so on. She could maybe write something up. Would that get it
But
in
they
the
had
paper?
to have a demolition, but they couldn't have demolished them without a demolition permit.
Yeah, oh,
You just can't demolish something. They need a demo permit. So when people are asking for a demo permit, maybe we could be kind of forewarned. It has to go through the town, So and that's in the municipality of Smith Falls. Just give somebody a call, we can take some pictures of it. And it's
You
fine.
can't tear down an old barn on your own property without
Tony,
it.
are you sure that's true in rural settings? I thought rural settings don't have the same
That's
rules.
the municipality of Smith Falls on that side.
Let's let Mary say what she wants to say.
Really
Okay.
sorry, it's a tidbit of information that I just learned that seems to be useful for this discussion. So the Ontario Building Code, I understand, does not require a building permit or a demolition permit to demolish a barn specifically. So most other structures require a demolition permit, but I also just recently learned that a barn does not require one. So if it wasn't designated heritage under the Ontario Heritage Act, there wouldn't be any trigger for municipal staff to know. There was actually another barn that was also demolished in town that I just learned about that was not done under permit either. And that was my concern, which is why I inquired and found out that piece of information.
That's good information to know, Mary.
Mhm.
Thank you. That's unfortunate, though, very unfortunate. Okay, the other one at the round table, the park up at, going out the Carlton Place Highway, there's a little park back in there. I always thought that was the High Fund Park. There's a monument there to High Fund. Now I see there's another name up there, right next to the High Fund Memorial. Did they change the name, or was that the original name of that little park? There's a memorial up, Lorraine, you know, there's a memorial there to the.
Yeah. Well, my boys played t-ball there.
Mhm.
Is it,
And it
is
was
this the
called-
park, is it called Alexandra Park?
Yes, yeah,
Okay, I know where you mean then.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the only name I heard it called.
Oh, I just saw the High Fund Memorial there.
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
The High Fund Park, okay.
That's something we should investigate though. If High Fund did donate it or something, did they? I don't know.
What is the High Fund Memorial?
There's a memorial with the High Fund.
Is that a person?
High Fund Studio, yeah, they ran a photography shop and on Main Street, and all of the pictures that we're talking about that Steve has came from there because he worked there.
Is that a person's actual name, High
Yeah.
Fund?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
never
there
knew
was-
that. Okay.
It was High Fund Studio, and they took
Right, yeah.
pictures, and the whole
Mhm.
family worked there. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it
I've
was in
always-
the Coombs building. Yeah, along the Coombs building block.
I've always known the name, but it never crossed my mind to wonder why it was called that. So now I know.
Yeah, HY was the man's
Mhm.
name.
Yeah. Okay, just closing off, for those who know Agnes Crane, Agnes has an amazing headstone in the English church yard. It's just behind the Chambers Memorial. It's very Art Deco. So if anybody's in there, have a look at it. It's an amazing memorial. And that's it. That's all for me.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Anyone else would like to contribute? Ted? Go ahead, Ted.
I have a question about the website. I'm wondering who's in charge of the website, and it maybe needs a bit of love, the website.
Would you like to be?
I guess I'm new.
We would love you to be.
Epic
We
mistake.
nominate you, Ted.
You were waiting. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Mary?
As your staff resource, I can arrange for changes. Essentially, we did lose some staff earlier this year that were in charge of the website. So now other departments are kind of taking on their own role. Now, I haven't been able to locate myself a specific one for MHC. I know that there's other ones for committees of council. Does the Municipal Heritage Committee have their own webpage that I haven't seen
We
yet?
did. We did.
We did, but we could never access it.
Okay.
It's still there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
we
could
went-
somebody even send me
Remember this?
detail about where that is? Because I've
Brittany?
seen probably all the documents on the website, but I don't think I've seen the actual location. I need to know the physical location to make changes on the back end. But if there is changes that need to be made, by all means, let me know.
I
I
think-
can arrange for
I
that.
think Becky would be able to tell you that because I know she put stuff on it for us.
I will find it regardless. And if there's changes that need to be made, just let me know.
So will, I'll go look at the website and bring some thoughts to the next meeting. If
Okay,
that's
thanks very
okay.
much, Ted.
Mary?
Sorry, just to add, Ted, if you have that information to me roughly a week before our next scheduled meeting, I can ensure that it's accommodated on the agenda as an agenda item and circulate the meeting material.
Okay, thanks.
And normally we actually go around the table, but does anyone else have anything they'd like to contribute? Chris?
Thanks, Dorothy. Tony, it's great to have you back. We've been missing you. It's nice to have you on the call this week. And I think the demolition stuff with the planning, like if there's a way to get our foot in the door with demolition permits, maybe the barn, it wouldn't have changed anything, but maybe the next one it will. And I think if there's something we could do, I don't know if we should add it to it as an agenda item or how to just kind of make it more official that we get consulted, but to get those pictures would be huge. The scavenger hunt, I was wondering if that's still happening or how is that going?
It's still happening.
Yeah.
We're still thinking about it, and we'll report on at the next meeting.
Excellent. Awesome. Looking forward to that one. Going through, I should have written this down when I was thinking of it. I'm really looking forward to there's a band, like as some of you may know, Tom Folks donated money to the town to put a bandstand up in the park. And I think as the campus and the library next door is designated, I would hope that the designs come through. And he's got a really exciting vision for the property. So inspired by a bandstand that was built in 1902 in Elmira, I think. So hopefully, maybe in the December meeting, we'll get to see that coming down the pipe. I'm drawing a blank on the other thing I was going to talk about. So those are my November roundtables.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, no? Just me then. I hope I've got the date right, but Heritage Week itself, does anyone have the date at their fingertips? Jenny?
It's the 15th to the 21st.
Good, okay. I'm, just for your information, I have signed up to lead a Rideau Trail walk, and I've called it the Heritage Week Walk through Smith Falls, and it's on February 20th. So, just to add something, and I have asked Becky if it would be possible to have, you remember those rack cards we had called the Heritage Trail, which showed where all the pedestals are? Well, I asked her if it would be possible to have new ones of those made so that I can hand them out to the participants, because my intention is to go following the Rideau Trail as it goes through town, which actually passes a fair number of pedestals. And then we're going to come back up Beckwith Street at the end, but it's not going to be the historic walk where I stop and talk, because we don't know the situation of what the pandemic will be like that, and besides that, it's going to be cold. So anyway, that's my plan. But some people signed up already.
Can you put my name down there too, please?
Sure. Yes, that would be great if you'd like to join. The first part is more like a hike. It's going to be about 8 kilometers altogether. Walking, I think we're going to start out.
I'll join you at the
We're going to start out, or maybe at the Railway Museum end of things, and follow the trail, which goes right down through Lower Reach Park, and then it comes back through the Adironto, I guess.
Okay.
It comes around. It'll go around past Tweed, and then through Adironto, and then it'll end up out on Chambers Street, and at that point we'll come back and up the main street. So,
Okay, thank you.
do you still want to, Kate? I just wanted you to know it's part of it's a hike.
I'll join you at the end.
Okay, okay. Anyone else have anything to contribute? Mary?
So, I just wanted everyone to know that last month I was asked for submissions to the town's calendar, and I did submit the Heritage Week. So Heritage Week is now documented on the town's calendar. If we have time frames next year before October area of our 2022 Heritage Week shenanigans, let's call it, because this past year we did a coloring contest and now we're looking at doing a heritage hunt. So if we manage to arrange it in a timeline before October 2021, then I can ensure that the Heritage Week shenanigans are recorded on the town's calendar for the year 2022. So now that I know that timeline, I'll try to keep it all in your thoughts. And also on another side note, because we were talking about the website, IT so kindly texted me to tell me that the reason why I'm having difficulty finding the municipal heritage webpage on the back end is because it's a completely different website. Only our IT coordinator has access to this website, but again, staff resources can arrange for changes if needed.
Okay.
Okay, so next meeting date is December 16th.
Okay.
And I guess it's time to adjourn. Would someone move that we adjourn the meeting, please?
Sure, I'll move. So moved.
Tony has moved. Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.